Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Play, Pause, Rewind. It is our 125th episode. We are a week late because both of our jobs were insane last week. So here we are.
Oh, yeah.
Niles, how have you been over the last 3 weeks since our previous recording?
I've been busy as shit, man. This life, this adulthood is crazy.
Mhm.
But, it's been busy, but there have been great things to celebrate in between, reconnecting with friends. And I just got to say, shout out to our salmon shirts today. We're both wearing salmon colored shirts. So
Yes.
we're matching today. This is cute. How are you, Dylan?
Oh, doing okay. Personally, doing well. You know, things are good. Work is busy. Crazy shit. As usual, the world is on fire, and it's America's
Yes.
fault. I like horrifying things happening. Sympathies with the people of Iran, obviously, and
Yes.
also the people of my hometown, Austin, Texas. There was a mass shooting last night. 3 people were killed, 14 injured in a bar. You know,
Hmm.
I don't know what else there is to say about it. We need comprehensive gun legislation in America, and we need America to stop soaking the planet in blood. That's
Yes.
all I really have to
100%.
say about that. But fuck Trump, fuck the American government, fuck Israel.
Yes, all of that. Ditto to all of that, and yeah, it's dark times.
Mm-hmm.
Make sure you got your support network and you're reaching out to people as always. But we're not here to
Yes,
talk about how shitty the world is and how
this is
terrible
true.
America is, even though that does worm its way into the conversation sometimes. We're here to talk
Mm-hmm.
about fun things. We like to talk
Yes.
about movies and entertainment and TV shows on this podcast,
Mm-hmm.
and today is no exception to the rule. We are talking about another movie, Crime
Crime
101.
101. All right, take it away.
Jinx. Crime 101, yeah. This is a 2026 film that follows an elusive and methodical jewel thief who targets diamond shipments, jewelry shipments along the LA 101 freeway in California. He plans these. In this movie, he plans one last high stakes, multi million dollar heist with an insurance broker while a determined detective and another thief pursue. This film is based on a novella from Don Winslow. It's the same name, which I didn't know going into this movie. I've just learned that in the research afterwards, so that's kind of
Mhm.
neat. The movie is directed by Bart Layton. I'm not super familiar with that director. I looked him up just before here, but he did. I think his biggest movies have been American Animals in 2018 and The Imposter in 2012. I have not seen either, but I'm going to look
Same.
into those to check them out as well. But it's written by Bart Layton and Don Winslow, and it stars Chris Hemsworth, Halle Berry, Mark Ruffalo, Barry Keoghan, Nick Nolte, Monica Barbaro, and several others. Dylan, what are some of your initial thoughts on Crime 101?
So, this will be interesting, an interesting episode for us because normally we are in agreement, and normally when we're not in agreement, I am the one who liked the movie less. But I will
Yes.
say, I enjoyed it, and I should also say up front, just as a disclosure, my sister's agency she works for did work on the marketing for this movie, so just disclosure. I don't think it affects my opinion on the movie at all, but I think it's only fair that I share that information. But
Sure.
I enjoyed this. I think the visuals and the tone are really the standouts for me. I really got the sense that this was sort of like a Heat light. Like I feel like tonally and structurally, almost like they were riffing off of the Michael Mann's Heat, starring Al
Mm-hmm.
Pacino and Robert De Niro. There were a couple shots that I found really neat as well, especially the ones where it like starts with the city on the camera is upside down and it slowly rotates
Mm-hmm.
to where the sky becomes where it would be normally. I thought those were really really nice. That being said, there are definitely some elements that I think could have used some more time in the oven. There are a lot of storylines that are introduced and not really seen through to completion. The romance subplot left a lot to be desired as well. There's a really great car chase at the front of the movie, though. I liked that. And we'll talk about all of the specifics of this in spoilers, obviously. But yeah, overall, I really liked it. I think the visuals sort of are worth the price of admission. I'd say overall, I would recommend it. has some shortcomings, some things that don't fully click, but the story holds together well enough, and I thought the tone and visuals were like pretty stellar. What about you? What are your initial thoughts on Crime 101?
Gotcha. Yeah, I mean, I will preface this by saying this isn't usually the type of movie that I go out and see.
Mm-hmm.
Um, you know, I think that heist type thrillers they can be interesting. Like I definitely like my Ocean's 11, franchise. I like the Mission Impossible franchise. Like these kinds of heist thrillers and action
Mm-hmm.
kind of movies are not usually my cup of tea, but I do enjoy them. And I also kind of wanted to challenge myself a little here and break out of what I'm comfortable in.
Mm-hmm.
There's like when you go to the movies, yeah, sometimes you just go to what's comfortable, what's familiar. And I think sometimes you do need to push yourself out of that. Like
Mm-hmm.
movies, sometimes they make you uncomfortable or sometimes they're not what you want to see. But I think it's still important to like stretch your boundaries and try different things. And, I thought I had seen Heat going into this, and then I was like, "Wait, I'm thinking of an entirely different movie." So I definitely have not seen Heat. So
Oh.
I think some of this film may be going over my head because I haven't seen that movie.
Mm.
But I think just in general, it's like this type of heist thriller. It's not my favorite genre, so I usually avoid
Mm-hmm.
them. But I wanted to see it because I wanted to talk about it on this podcast with you, and you seem to enjoy it too. So I thought
Mm-hmm.
it would make for a good conversation.
Yeah. I
Um,
will say too before you continue, and
yes.
we've talked about this on the show before, but like I think going out to see a movie like this in the theaters is important because we've talked about before how like the mid-budget movie has more or less gone extinct in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
We either have the super indie stuff that's made for like a couple $1,000,000 or the big blockbusters like the Marvel Cinematic Universe. And
Yes.
the like Hollywood system in the past really has been sustained by like these mid-budget movies. These are the types of things that, less established directors and actors can really cut their teeth in and get experience and mainstream exposure. And
Hmm.
also like you have to have that diversity of stories and sort of financial investments from the business side for a healthy industry. Like right now it's so skewed to the polar opposite ends of the budget. Like we need movies like this to exist and succeed for a thriving film industry, I think.
Agreed, and 100% agreed with that. Because yeah, you we don't just want to see sequels. We don't want to just see continuing franchises. We want to see
Mm-hmm.
original stories. We want to see stuff that's interesting and innovative and things that we haven't seen before. And that
Yeah.
happens. That doesn't always happen with indie, and that doesn't happen with the big blockbusters too. It's like
Mm-hmm.
you need a good diversity
Right.
of budgets and types of movies and filmmakers and creators and all that. That said, unfortunately, like you alluded to, Dylan, we are at the opposite ends here,
Mm-hmm.
and we're not usually this misaligned because I am underwhelmed and bored by Crime 101. Actually, I'm pretty sure I'm in the minority overall with my review. Most of the online reviews that I've seen of this movie have been very positive.
Mm-hmm.
And most people, like, even I was just exploring Reddit and a bunch of people were like, I love this. Like, I'm so
Mm-hmm.
excited for this. Like, this looks like such a fun movie. And so I'm
Yep.
glad that a lot of people are enjoying this movie and that it's getting positive reviews. I'm just underwhelmed by it. I think that the film has good bones. Like the structure is
Mm-hmm.
there, the narrative is solid. Like it has the ingredients. All the ingredients are on the table. Everything's in
Mm-hmm.
place. It's just I don't think it's entirely like A+ material, or like they just could have taken things a little bit further. And I recognize making movies is hard. There's lots and lots of things that you don't see.
Uh-huh.
Script revisions, countless revisions, and there's lots of technical details that happen in the scene behind the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But for me, I think that each character arc, it had some similar themes and motifs, but I feel like it's just there's some underwhelming elements that tanked my viewing experience and just made
Mm-hmm.
me just feel underwhelmed here. And I think it just
Okay.
ultimately boils down to two things, which I think that some of the characters are boring,
Mm-hmm.
and the writing just isn't, like I said, A+ material. And we'll get more into that in spoilers. So I don't know if I would really recommend this movie. But I will say that there are some very good moments throughout, like some cool car chase scenes. There's the third act I liked a lot.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think overall I'm just underwhelmed.
Fair enough. Are you ready to hop into spoilers?
Yeah, let's hop into spoilers. Why not?
All right,
Please disregard.
go
I live right by a fire station, so you hear some fire trucks coming by sometimes. So apologies to
Mhm.
listeners at home. Um, I I will start off the spoilers discussion. Not a ton of spoilers, but I will agree with you, Dylan, what you said in non spoilers.
Mhm.
There's some really great shots in this movie. I think the aesthetics of the movie are really cool, crisp. Some of them are breathtaking, like that shot that you alluded to. It's just like
Mhm.
this eagle view perspective of like the city of LA and the 101 highway, and like the camera turns upside down. So it's
Mhm.
like I can't remember exactly the order it's in. It's like the if the skyline's at the top first and then it transitions to the
Mhm.
bottom, or if it's vice versa. I can't remember, but maybe they did that shot multiple times. But I really like
Yeah,
that shot.
they did. I think they did it. The first one starts with the city upside down at the top, and then it rotates, and then the next time I think they do it in the opposite direction, if I'm remembering it
Hmm.
correctly. So,
I think you're
like,
correct.
yeah, I think maybe it has to do with like we're kind of dialing into the way Hemsworth's character like is really methodical, and he has his system in place, and then it kind of spirals back out of control as the methodology starts to fall apart, as he's being exposed, and the walls are closing in, sort of. But who
Hmm.
knows?
Yeah, I think that's probably thematically appropriate there. So yeah, I really like those shots, and I think that there's some other really great sequences, like we alluded to, the car sequences, like
Mm-hmm.
in the first few minutes or the first, I don't know, 20 minutes of the film. Chris Hemsworth has like this really cool driving sequence, like getaway with the car, and I
Mm-hmm.
think it's really crisp, clean, awesome
Yeah.
sequence as well. So I think some of the aesthetics of this movie are just really great. I really like some of that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Do you want to talk about the characters a little bit though, because I think that's where your main hang up with the movie sort of comes into play, right?
Yes, yes, I will agree. Let's talk about the characters. So I think that just in general, some of the characters are just too boring or they don't have a lot going on. So our protagonist, Chris Hemsworth's character, Mike Davis,
Mm-hmm.
to me, I just feel like he doesn't have a lot of personality or a lot going on. There's this
Mm-hmm.
point in the movie too where he's talking with his girlfriend, who they start dating throughout the movie. She says to him at one point something along the lines of, I think about you so much throughout the day about how much I like you, but then I realize I don't know anything about you. And that's kind of the
Mm-hmm.
conflict that she's having with his character. And that's also how I'm feeling as the audience member about this protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I don't know anything about Mike, and there's not a lot that motivates me to root for him or really connect with him. Like, I feel like I
Mm-hmm.
know maybe three things about him, and that's he grew up poor, very, very poor, and that he's a master thief because he's been robbing people his whole life,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
and that he takes great measures during his heist to avoid harming people. And that's it. I feel like those are the only details I know about him, and
Mm-hmm.
I think those characteristics are very good for foundation. But for me, I just needed more to draw me in, and I think Chris Hemsworth, he's very charismatic, and he usually is very good in his roles, whether that's
Mm-hmm.
Thor or Mad Max. That villain there, I can't remember that villain's name, but Mike just
Dementius,
doesn't
right?
have that. Yeah, yeah, that's right. That's his name. But Mike here, I just feel like he's got nothing, like
Uh-huh.
no charisma, like nothing, and it's just hard for me to connect with this character overall.
Yeah. I don't disagree. I think though, like, that is part of the point of him, right? Like
Sure.
he's so like closed off that he doesn't really accept it. And you start to see him like he plays sort of a almost a role when he's working with Halle Berry or trying to charm her. So you get a sense of
Yeah.
like he's able to put on these masks and play a role. But like something I would have liked to see more of with him, it's like who like how did he get into this jewelry thief stuff? Like how did he become
Yes.
so methodical in this? What's his relationship with Nick Nolte? Like how did he fall in with him? And we'll talk about that
Exactly.
more in a bit. But it is like I hear what you're saying, because I didn't understand like why Monica Barbaro's character is interested in him, really, other than he's attractive. Because it's like, to her point and yours, what is he bringing to the table in any of this? He's like
Mm-hmm.
weird and quiet, and he doesn't share anything. And it's like one of many things that are sort of like introduced and not followed up on. It's like he seems like emotionally stunted in a lot of ways,
Yes.
and like he can't, like, I thought there would be something more with like him being able to like find genuine intimacy with someone like throughout the romance. Like, it's the first thing we see him do outside of the um thieving stuff is he goes and hires a prostitute, and he's like disappointed that the one he normally hires is not available or something.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought there would be maybe some like thing of him having to come out of his shell a bit more to
Right.
like connect with someone who he's not paying. But
Mm-hmm.
it that kind of happens a little bit, but it's so on the back burner that it's not really developed properly, you know.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said all that, because that is a good counterbalance to what I'm saying about
Mm-hmm.
him too. Because like I do recognize that his character is like, yeah, emotionally stunted, like you said, but yeah, I just feel like I need more. I need
Mm-hmm.
more information on him. Like, give me a flashback scene. Give me like something that, gives him more personality and background and
Mm-hmm.
context beyond just like, oh, I grew up poor, meh, meh, meh. Like, just something else. And then I feel like the other two main characters,
Mm-hmm.
this is just my opinion, so I'm curious to hear what you have to say. But the other two characters just feel a little bit more interesting and developed than our protagonist. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
feel like I know Halle Berry's character and Mark Ruffalo's character even better than our protagonist.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Halle Berry's character, her I looked it up too. I think her character's name is Sharon Combs. So very
Mm-hmm.
unfortunate last name there. If that's the case, that really sucks. But Sharon, she is just a little better and a little more sympathetic to
Uh-huh.
me. It's my opinion than Mike.
Mm-hmm.
Sharon is this insurance broker living in LA who has grown disillusioned by her career, by her company. She feels stuck.
Yeah.
She's getting terrible sleep. She's like, her health is like kind of deteriorating because she's so focused on her career and landing
Mm-hmm.
these big deals. But like, the firm is really just using her, like, to just wrangle in these bigger fishes,
Mm-hmm.
because she's a woman in a very male dominated company. And I feel like I can understand more about her background and sympathize more with her character than with the
Mm-hmm.
protagonist. And I think there is a limit to that sympathy, because I sympathize with her because she's like, you know, continues to be stunted,
Mm-hmm.
and kind of like held back in this very misogynistic culture, and she can't really make any headway. But, even though she's not a partner at the firm and she's getting strung along for years, that
Mm-hmm.
obviously sucks. But she's living in LA. She obviously has like a very nice job and lifestyle, like a home in LA along the 101. Like, I think she's doing okay, like from a financial and career
For sure.
perspective, but
Yeah.
she's not like where she wants to be,
Yeah, but it's like she's I mean, her storyline is very much about like the glass ceiling that women face in the workplace, especially in
Yes.
these boys club type industries, like this high dollar insurance thing. And she what like, and she was treated really, she was used as like bait basically for these like pervy rich men. They send her out to go close the deals. But one thing I really liked about her storyline was the dynamic with the younger girl in the office, who because like the it easily could have been like a very antagonistic relationship. Because it's like, oh, they just are bringing her in to replace me. She's just like me, but younger. But she takes a much less hostile approach to that, because she recognizes what's being done to her, and she is
Hmm.
basically like, they are going to do the same thing to this girl. They're going to treat her like she's amazing for right now, and then, dangle opportunities and promises in front of her for decades until she ages up a little bit, and then they're just going to throw her aside. And I really liked that sort of how she handles things at the end. And she goes in, it's like, hey, you don't have to put up with this. They used to talk to me like they're talking to you, and look how they treat me now. Don't let them do that to you, basically. I liked that. I thought it was a cool, like, sort of subversion of that sort of story archetype. I also thought I like that Hemsworth is kind of trying to, like, draw her in to do this heist with him, and then she's kind of like, what the fuck? No, I don't want to do this. This is insane. And then she just gets to a point with her bosses where she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I will do this. Doesn't play out that way. But I kind of like that it's like, you know what? I'm not going to get anything out of this. I'm just going to steal these jewels.
Yeah. I love her for that. And I agree. I did like the, her kind of confrontation of her boss and the dynamic with the younger agent in the office. So, yeah, I liked those elements too.
I also laughed my ass off at the scene where she's like trying to close the deal with the older rich guy, and then she's like, "Oh yeah, and then your daughter can have like this great insurance policy for when she goes to college," and he's like, "That's my fiance."
Like, oh, awkward! You're not getting that sale.
Yeah, and then they even give like the young fiance like a little bit of depth too at the end when she realizes that he's like doing all these like sketchy financial things with this cash, and she's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And like starts throwing shit at him. I like that.
Yeah, I like that moment too. And I mean, going back to like the main characters too, Mark Ruffalo's character, he plays this detective named Lou Lubiznik. I believe is the last name, Lou. But he also, I just feel, is more developed to me than Mike's character.
Yeah.
Than Mike. The detective, I fully understand who he is. Like, he's not quite to the level of like Matthew McConaughey's detective in True Detective, but he's like...
That's a very unfair comparison.
It's a very unfair comparison, but like he just kind of gives off that vibe of like, I'm going for the truth, like I don't care about clearance rates. I don't care about like, the department breathing down my back. I want to find the truth, and I'm dedicated to that, kind of in that same vein. That's kind of
he's a good detective who cares about actually solving crimes, surrounded by a department who only cares about stats.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. He's dedicated to finding the truth. To find this serial thief in LA, he can spot the pattern. He identifies it. I'll give him some credit. He's really focused on the truth, finding this real criminal, catching him. He's not focused on clearance rates. He's actually a good detective. That said, it's kind of crazy to me also, though, that like he's so focused on these high-end jewelry thefts in this very wealthy, privileged area of LA. I understand if that's his precinct, but it's like, come on, dude. Like, where the actual crime, like, there's more important crimes than rich people losing like a few gems. Like, there's disenfranchised communities and things like that. But I understand he probably has jurisdiction in a very limited area.
Niles. Look, he's a likable character, but you have to remember, at the end of the day, he's still an American police officer. He's not gonna fix the problems of society. His job is to protect private property. We know this. That's why he's
exactly.
But I think it was so funny too, like when he has that briefing and he presents like the evidence for his theory, and then everybody, like the lieutenant's like, shut the fuck up, you stupid dumbass. It's like, what do you... He's right. Like, he presented a very compelling argument. Like, would you just let him do it?
Right.
Like, I don't
no,
understand.
We're just care about clearance rates.
Yeah, but it's like the lieutenant's mindset. I'm like, dude, this is like obviously a serial crime. Like, the pattern is there. Let him investigate. This would be a huge win for you.
Right. but the department doesn't want it. Like they just,
Mm-hmm.
it's, yeah, I can understand the frustration on his end. And then, Mark
Yes.
Ruffalo's character, he has this scene in a burger diner with his wife, and his wife admits to having an affair.
Mm-hmm.
And, they're obviously going to be divorced at something like
Mm-hmm.
that. And Lou decides to move out of the house, and we get this kind of nice sequence of him moving into an apartment on his own with his cat. And
Mm-hmm.
I love the cat. I will always love seeing a cat in a movie. So thank you for including that.
Uh-huh.
um, but and you can see that he's actually trying to make some real positive changes in his life
Mm-hmm.
too. He's going to yoga, and he's um, just trying to make some change. And
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I know Detective Lou a whole lot better than I know Mike, which I think is just a general problem for the emotional pull of the story, especially
Mm-hmm.
when, Mike is the main character and not Lou.
Yeah. Well, I'd say they're like co-protagonists, like
Sure.
in the
Mm-hmm.
same way that, De Niro and Pacino are both the leads of Heat. Like it's
Sure.
they have a similar cat and mouse dynamic here. Although I will say, like, and I haven't seen Heat in a very, very long time, but it's like I wish there was a way for Mike and Lou to get to know each other a bit more before the end of the movie. I know the end of the
Yes.
movie doesn't work if they recognize each other physically, but like I don't know, I would have liked Mike to be more aware of what Lou was doing than he was.
Mm-hmm.
I liked that phone call scene. I
Yes.
wish there were a couple more moments like that sprinkled throughout.
Agreed. Yeah. And I think that's kind of like the thing that it boils down to at the end of the day is I think the bones of the movie are solid and good,
Mm-hmm.
like the structure, the narrative,
Yeah.
and there's some parallels between the characters too. Like all three of
Mm-hmm.
these main characters, Mike, Sharon, and Lou, they have some parallels,
Yeah.
and like the themes and like motifs, like each one of them, they just kind of mirror each other. They have some personal failures.
Mm-hmm.
They're all kind of stuck, trapped. They are isolated in life. They have these failing relationships too,
Yeah.
and I like how they are connected and their arcs kind of mirror each other, but I
Mm-hmm.
just feel like they don't fully connect or gel. And I agree with you that I think they could have written the script in a different way where, yeah, they could have interacted a little bit more and had
Mm-hmm.
kind of more of that Heat element that you're talking about, that
Yeah.
dynamic, like detective and or cat and mouse game,
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like the script just needed maybe a few more revisions to truly get all these characters into A+ range. But again, maybe I'm the minority at the end of the day.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But yeah, I think the problem, I don't think it's a revision problem necessarily, but I think it's an editing problem because I
Mm,
think there's several things in the movie that made me think a lot of stuff had been cut out in the edit. Like
yeah,
there's a
sure.
whole storyline with Lou and his partner on the police force. His partner's like, yeah, the lieutenant says I should find a new partner, but I'm not going to. And there's like
Hmm.
this like tension of them drifting apart, and then there's that sequence where another officer shoots an unarmed bank robber and kills him, and then like plants a gun on his body, and then
Right.
Lou's partner sort of gives testimony in line with the officer who lied against Lou, and then the lieutenant's like, all three of you are suspended from the force, and
Hmm.
then none of that is mentioned again. And Lou
Right.
is still able to go into the evidence locker, and he gets the diamonds from the initial heist, which is what he gives Halle Berry at the end. But it's like, okay, so we're never going to come back to that pretty like big betrayal in Lou's life, and also we're not going to explore how he is still able to get into like evidence lockup as a suspended detective.
Right.
Um, so that was a little weird. There's also like the whole dynamic with Nick Nolte's character. It's like Hemsworth,
Right.
Mike goes to him for. I don't know. I don't know what the dynamic is because it seems like Mike plans the heists on his own and executes everything on his own, but Nick Nolte gets a cut. Maybe Nick Nolte gives the initial tip because they're talking about like the Santa Barbara job, and Mike doesn't want to do it because it's not his MO. It's like in the middle of the day and all this stuff. So like, is Nick Nolte, I don't know what he is necessarily, and also how he relates to Barry Keoghan's character, right? Like, he worked with his
Right.
father before. There's this whole thing that's just not really fleshed out, which is fine. I guess it's not the focus, but it's enough time is spent on it to where I'm like, I need a little bit more from this. Also, I didn't realize this until I was putting together my notes, but Lou's wife is played by Jennifer Jason Leigh. She's in one scene.
Really?
Yeah, that's her in the
Really?
diner. And so I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, well, there was probably more to this storyline at one point if Jennifer Jason Leigh signed on, because why would she sign on for a one scene role? And then also the romance between Mike and Monica Barbaro's character definitely could have used a bit more time. And speaking of that romance is the weakest part of the movie for me, because it's just like so bare bones, and I don't feel like Barbaro's character is given much depth or agency. Like, she's just not given. She's a great actress. She's in the Bob Dylan movie. She's in Top Gun Maverick. Like, she does. She's a very. She plays Joan Baez in the Bob Dylan movie. She's excellent. But she just doesn't have anything to work with here, and I like. She's given one decision, which I think is a good decision. It's when she leaves Mike, because he's like very obviously unwilling to open up to her. And it's like, okay, good. She recognized that this guy is like giving her nothing in return, and she made a decision to leave. But it's like, she's just otherwise written as someone who just puts up with his weird behavior because he's hot, and is also... One thing I didn't like, it just, the romance felt very from 20 years ago, you know, like,
yes,
she is presented as the prize for Mike making the right decisions at the end. Like, because he you know, gets out of his life and gives up on the money, he gets to have the girl. And I'm like, you know, I wanted her to be a bit more than that. I wouldn't have minded if she gets caught up in the chaos of the climax somehow, like because of her association with Mike, she gets into Barry Keoghan's crosshairs, and Mike has to make a decision between the money he's chasing and her, you know, something like, which is what happens, but she's just absent for it. It's just, I really wanted more from this romance, and it just wasn't there, you know?
I agree. You are 100% right there, Dylan. I like what you said. It's a romance from like 20 years ago, and that's kind of what I was feeling too. I'm like, she is so one note. They only start like, the attraction is all physical at the start, and that's kind of what it seems to be for the entire movie. It's just like, okay, they're just physically attracted to each other. I don't see any other sparks going off here. And yeah, I would have liked her to have more agency in the film rather than just be like the girl that you win at the end of the day. It's like, come on, that's like a plot point from a Judd Apatow movie from 20 years ago. You're totally right there.
Yeah. There is one bright spot in the romance, though. And and actually, I think it's a great character moment for both Mike and her. But when they have their first date, he picks the like fancy restaurant. And then
I like that.
I love her. She's like, right away, it's like, look, I don't think this is going to work. And he's like, why? It's like, because this is not my vibe. And he's just like, and then his response is like, yeah, I don't know what this is. I just like, this is what I thought I was supposed to do.
Yeah.
So, I like that's good characterization though, because he's like,
exactly,
he's emotionally stunted. So he's just like, oh, well, first date, you take the girl out to a really nice restaurant. And it turns out they both fucking hate the nice restaurant, and they go and like eat at a food truck, and it's a much better date. But where I have an issue with it is like, that's when I want to start seeing, I want to see Mike open up a little bit. Like, and we just don't get any from him. And I think that goes back to your main problem with him as a character. It's like, we should have seen him like start to open up, but then maybe close back. And that's what frustrates her, because otherwise I just don't see why she's interested in this guy.
I totally agree there. Yeah. We are aligned. Yes.
All right.
Well, yeah, I think, but the thing that I liked the most in this movie was probably the third act.
Mhm.
overall. I think this is like the way the movie gets to this point. The first like 2 acts, I'm like, okay, I'm getting bored. But then this third
Mhm.
act, I think it gets far more interesting because
Yeah.
Sharon, she's frustrated with the misogyny and being held back at her job. So she's like,
Mhm.
fuck it. Like you said earlier, fuck it. Let's plan a heist. I want this money. Fuck my bosses, whatever. She plans a heist with Mike. But then she gets kind of shaken by Barry Keoghan's character, who we haven't even really talked about, but there's not a lot there with him. He's
Yeah.
just kind of a grunt who's
Yeah.
violent, you know.
Yeah. He's like the inverse of Hemsworth's character. I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
I think he was a fine foil, I suppose. I did
Yes.
like the scene of his Santa Barbara job as a
Yeah, that was
contrast
cool.
to how
Mm-hmm.
Mike operates, because he totally fucks it up like to an embarrassing degree. He still gets away, but
Yeah.
like,
But
oh my,
yeah, he
it
messes
was
up the
so
job.
stressful. Yeah, he messes up the job,
Mm-hmm.
but it was a genuinely stressful scene, and the baby was crying, and the entire time I'm like, please, for the love of God, do not kill that fucking baby. Like,
Yeah, right. Like, just get out of there. Just get out of there. Like, yeah,
mm-hmm,
that scene was pretty good. But yeah, this third act, Barry Keoghan's character, he shakes up Sharon a little bit,
mm-hmm,
so she wants to back out. She
yeah,
flips and gets Lou involved, but Lou's on
uh-huh,
suspension. So Lou kind of gets this arrangement with her where he's like, okay, you can stay at my apartment for a little bit,
mm-hmm,
just until things, you know, breeze over. And then he poses as the courier during the jewel heist, this high
mm-hmm,
stakes multi-million dollar jewel heist at the end, and he's
mm-hmm,
the one who gets picked up by Mike, which is really great. I love that sequence. Like they play it very well, and then
mm-hmm,
at the last minute, like you think the courier is the person who's gonna like show up and get in the car,
yeah.
and then at the last minute, it's like nope, it's Lou, and that was a great detail. I love that reveal. That was great.
Yes, the editing of this sequence I thought was really, really slick. I love the reveal that Lou has swapped himself in for the courier, and he is who Mike is picking up. I also like that. I didn't realize this until I was thinking about it the following day after seeing it. But the briefcase, um, is full of the fake jewels from the initial
Mm.
heist at the beginning, and then there's a small set of real jewels that he gives to Halle Berry, but that's where he gets all of the stuff. He gets it all out of the evidence locker and uses it to pose as the courier. I thought that was really clever, and it
Hmm.
ties everything back um, together.
Yeah, that's really smart. That was a detail I didn't really pick up on, so
Mm-hmm.
thank you for pointing that out. But I think this is like this whole third act when he picks him up. This is when the movie really really gets good,
Mm-hmm.
because that tension really starts to build in a satisfying way in the car ride. I think the dialogue isn't great during this sequence, but like I think the tension builds pretty well
Mm-hmm.
still, and it escalates, and then they get to the hotel room, and it escalates even more there,
Mm-hmm.
especially with you know Barry Keoghan's character jumping in and hijacking the heist. Like that gets really elevated.
Yeah, I think this was my favorite part of the movie, the car scene specifically too. I love
Yes.
as well how they're talking about movies, and they're talking about Steve McQueen movies. Um,
Right.
but but the movies Mike is referencing are all like cop movies, like Bullet. And
Hmm.
then Ruffalo, who is the cop, is mentioning crime movies or prison escape movies. And I don't know. It's just like I don't remember if Mike doesn't recognize that Lou is a cop at this point, but Lou knows who Mike is, so he's kind of, you know, testing him, teasing him with like, it's like,
Hmm.
I know who you are. You're trying to like seem on the straight and narrow by calling out the cop movies, but I'm gonna talk about all these crime dramas instead.
Hmm.
I thought that was
Yeah,
great.
you're totally right there.
Yeah.
Uh,
The
yeah, and it's
one
kind of yeah. No, go for it. Go for it.
the one odd choice to me about the third act, which I overall like quite a lot, is that Sharon just sort of leaves the story throughout the
Yes.
third act after she gets Lou involved, um, until the very very end. But
Hmm.
it's like, okay, so the main two female characters in the movie just are not involved in the third act much at all. That kind of sucks.
Yeah,
But
it is
yeah,
weird.
yeah,
It's
careful.
it's very weird. I don't like that part too. That she just kind of exits, but it is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And in this sequence, Mike ultimately saves Lou's life by killing Barry Keoghan's character. He jumps in the room like after Mike starts doing the heist. But then Barry Keoghan hijacks that heist basically, and you don't know what he's gonna do. He could shoot somebody. Mike's makes the call and kills him. And I like this ending, or how this happens, because Lou, he knows who Mike is, right? Like he called him, he did the digging, he's done his research. He knows that Mike had a difficult childhood, and that he only robs because he experienced extreme poverty when he was growing up. Not only that, he understands the pattern in the robberies. He's seeing it, and he knows that Mike he's not a killer. He doesn't intentionally harm people, and he recognizes that Mike saved his life there. So all that makes Lou, knowing all that knowledge, Lou makes this decision in the moment to like, I'm going to pin all those robberies, the Crime 101 thief, on Barry Keoghan's character, who's dead right there on the floor, and he encourages Mike to leave LA. Like he's like, you're not going to get away with the money, but you're not going to go to prison. Like you don't have to be a criminal. You can just get out of this hotel. That's all you got to do here. And I really like that he made that decision. And then additionally, Lou takes several of those diamonds, like you were mentioning, and gives them to Sharon because, he values that friendship, but he also recognizes this adversity that she's had to navigate. And he understands the reasons why she started going down this path for the heist and everything. So it's just like, he's a very thoughtful detective, and he recognizes that, he could do the thing by the book, put all these people in prison, but like at the end of the day, he's like, he weighs everything, and he's like, well, the only person who really got hurt is that millionaire who's bleeding right there, but he'll be fine at the end of the day. And I want to help the people who actually need the help.
He's Jim Gordon at the end of The Dark Knight.
Yes, 100%.
It's like he manipulates the facts to make sure everybody gets out okay. Because
yes,
no harm,
yes,
no foul.
Yeah, I like this ending because I think it puts these parallel character arcs into a better perspective. All these characters can kind of finally move on from these chronic failures and the isolation that's plagued their lives, and we see that like everyone kind of has their nice ride off into the sunset. And I also like this ending because we've talked about it before in this podcast, but it spotlights the complicated nature of crime in our country and just in general in the world, and the often overlooked reasons and motives behind the crimes. All of our main characters that committed these crimes, those crimes are largely victimless, aside from the insurers and the stakeholders. But, on the most part, no one's been hurt. The affected parties, like the jewelers and stuff, they'll get their money back, no problem. Like that's not the issue here. And like, Mike and Sharon, they're doing these heists for good reasons, for the most part. And, I think Lou, he's recognized here at the end that, Mike lived in poverty his entire life. He took these great risks to avoid physical harm to others. So in a way, he's kind of a modern day Robin Hood without actually giving that money back to anybody, but he's robbing from the rich to feed himself.
he's Robin Hood without like one of the most essential parts of what Robin Hood does. But
yes.
I like too that Mike, like earlier in the movie, he just like wants more and more money, and I guess I think he's asked like, when is it enough? And he's like, I'll know, but not yet. And I think he finally like has the wherewithal to sort of be like, okay, enough is enough. It's time to leave. And I do like, despite not liking the romance in the movie, because there's just very little to it. I like that it ends with him reaching back out to her and expressing that vulnerability. And it's like, hey, this is like me and my family. I hope I'm not too late. Like, I thought that was cute. And then you can kind of have the hope that they sort of reconnect and sort of build something together. Like, that part's nice. I also like that he gives Ruffalo the car, because there's the whole thing about like Lou's old like car just kind of being an old piece of shit, and then he gets this cool sports car.
Yeah, I agree. I do like that ending where he's driving off out of LA and he pulls over and he thinks about it and he's like, no, and he turns back around and goes back into LA, and yeah, like we said,
Mm-hmm.
most likely to reconnect with the love interest and stuff, and
Mm-hmm.
and obviously leave the car and stuff. But like, you know, he kind of made this very intentional choice of like, I'm not going to run. I'm sticking around, and I'm going to change my
Mm-hmm.
life. I'm not going to be a thief anymore. At least that's implied here at the end. And
Yeah.
yeah, I like the ending. I like the third act, but I think,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, overall, the Mike really needed more personality, more
Mm-hmm.
background, more context. Other characters I would have liked a little more, but I feel like they got enough for me to like them.
Yeah, I just think it's like you're saying, like the bones are there, all the pieces are there. It's just I like due to editing or something, it's like it doesn't totally gel, but it gels enough
Yes.
for me. I'm like I enjoyed my time with it. The opening, I also enjoyed just like watching Mike's methodical nature and his sort of systems that he puts in place. Like
Mm-hmm.
when he like acts like his car is stalled on the highway entrance, you know, and then sort of like manipulates the situation so that other guy gets out of his car and then he shoves him in the trunk, and then he has the camera
Right.
on his like Mark's houses to say like, oh, I have a guy there like ready to shoot your family or something.
Mm-hmm.
And I also
Yeah.
like
And
how, oh god.
oh no, yeah, I was just gonna say I really like how like there was like that sequence too where he's just like rubbing his head really hard to like get all
Mm-hmm.
like the dead skin, all the hair follicles out,
Yeah.
so that way he
Mm-hmm.
doesn't leave any traces that could be like evidence or like DNA traceable to
Right.
him. So I like that detail too.
Yeah, and I really enjoyed in the opening sequence though, because he does all of that stuff and he's like there's no, you know, he's accounted for everything except one thing he can't account for is like a reckless other person who brought an extra gun and hid it somewhere, and then that
Mm-hmm.
ruins everything in his plan. Like it because it cuts his he gets like I guess glass in his hair or something, and he leaves blood on the scene of the car, like a tiny little bit. It's
Mm-hmm.
just like it's just so great because like no matter how much you plan, nothing is foolproof in this
Yeah,
type of like
exactly.
work. I really enjoyed all that stuff. But
Fair enough.
any final thoughts on Crime 101?
Nope. I think I've said all I want to say.
Cool. Well, with that, let's transition into some other stuff. Talk about what else we've been watching, reading, playing, etc. Niles, what have you been up to the last couple weeks?
Yeah, my media explorations have been minimal because I've been so busy. But we've been continuing on with RuPaul's Drag Race season 18. We are getting near the end. I think we are down to 7 queens at this point, but it's not kind of the crew that I was expecting to end with. But I'm liking where things are going with. We're getting closer to that final 4-ish
Mm-hmm.
point now with these queens, and it's a fun new season. I'm liking it, and everyone's bringing their A game as
Mm-hmm.
always. So love it. It's so positive. It's so fun. It's so camp. If you're listening to this podcast and you've not checked out RuPaul's Drag Race, I highly recommend it. Um, yeah. And we've also been continuing on with our rewatch of Fargo, the anthology series. We finished the first 4 seasons. We are almost done with the 5th season. That has been like our main focus lately. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to take it to my grave. I think Fargo is like a top 10, top 20 show for me.
Mm-hmm.
I just love it. I think it's so fun. It's got so much personality. And this 5th season, I can't remember if I mentioned it on the last podcast, but this 5th
Mm-hmm.
season is like set in 2016, I believe.
Okay.
And it's really about like this really scary sheriff played by John Hamm, and
Mm-hmm.
his pursuit of his ex-wife, who who ran off years and years ago, and him trying to get his ex-wife back. But you know, it's not very romantic. It's more because he thinks she's his property, and there's this whole domestic violence angle in the story this time around. But she is for real a tiger and fights back, and it's an excellent season. I think it's my favorite one. But
Yeah.
we are almost done with that, and then we'll need to find something else to watch. But yeah, it's great.
Yeah.
And we've been continuing just rewatching some old X-File episodes. Those are always fun.
Mhm.
Love Skulder and Molly. I'm mixing those names up.
Wait,
Um,
I was like, wait, that's not right.
Mulder and Scully. That's it. I pulled a calm trues on myself. Um, they're always just fun, and those episodes are just campy, weird, alien,
Mhm.
crazy shit. But what about you, Dylan? What have you been up to lately?
So I went to see How to Make a Killing, the new movie with Glenn Powell, Jessica Henwick, and Margaret Qualley. About and that sort of centers on Glenn Powell plays a person who was sort of he comes from a family of extreme wealth, but due to circumstances, his mom was sort of kicked out of the family, and but they were like not really removed from the inheritance. But he's like, you know what?
Mm.
I want this life of luxury, so I have to just kill everyone in the line of succession in the family, and then I'll get the money. And it's about him sort of doing that, and it's sort of a dark comedy, sort of similar to this, where I'm like, I liked it, I wanted to love it. There were a couple things that just kept it from that level for me, which I don't want to like spoil the movie, but there are certain things where I'm like, oh, I wish you tweaked this just a little bit. But
Mm-hmm.
uh
Sure.
fun, it's a fun premise, and Glenn Powell I think does a really good job in it, in addition to um Jessica Henwick and Margaret Qualley. Like Ed Harris is in there as well.
Mm.
I'm blanking on his name right now, but Gabe from The Office is in there.
Oh yeah,
Um,
I can't remember his name.
what is
Zachary
his name?
Woods.
Zachary Woods. He's
Zachary
great.
Woods.
I love him like in real life too. He's a huge like pro-Palestinian, um, you know, activist at this point.
He's amazing.
He's
I
great.
love him.
He's really talented, really funny. He's in Silicon Valley also. He has one of the
He's so
funniest.
good.
He has one of the funniest moments in that whole show. They're like driving around looking for the main character in this trailer park, and one of the guys is like shouting out for Richard, and some guy at the trailer park is like, hey, can y'all shut up? And then and then Zach Woods gets like leans out of the back seat of the car, and he's like, how would you like to die today, motherfucker? It's so
Amazing.
funny. But I saw that, liked it, didn't love it, but I would recommend
Cool.
it, I think. I'm also reading Brandon Sanderson's Isles of the Emberdark. Very interesting so far, and it's like it's part of his whole like Cosmere mega franchise thing. And it's interesting because like people from the worlds of two of the other franchises are like characters on the fringe of this story, and their civilizations seem to be at war at this point. But the main
Mm.
characters are on a totally different planet, and they're just like being influenced by these two alien forces. But it's like they they go to these like jungle islands, and they have these birds that like protect them and like give visions and stuff like that. It's interesting.
Hmm.
I'm still early-ish and at like 60 pages or so into the book, but I'm intrigued, and I'm having some issues with how he's like tying all of his series more and more together. I find some of that a little bit frustrating, but I'm enjoying the way he's handling it here, at least so far, where it's like you're familiar with the planets these characters are from. You've read extensive books about their worlds, and now we're in like their space ages, and they're at
Mm.
war with each other. And I'm like, okay, I'm intrigued. I'm intrigued
Okay.
about where
Yeah.
this is going.
That's cool.
Yeah. And then also, um, playing another space thing. I'm playing The Outer Worlds 2,
Mm.
Obsidian Entertainment's franchise. They are the developer who made Fallout New Vegas and Pillars of Eternity and all those games. And the Outer Worlds franchise is like a human colony like way out in space, and it's very like comedically mocking capitalism and like corporate culture. It's like this a lot of the societies are run by the corporation, and everything is about like getting promoted and maximizing shareholder value. And
Hmm.
it's like the corporations versus sort of a like a theocratic communist society, which also isn't great in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's fun. So and like your companions are obviously like from one side of this argument or the other, and they'll interact with the NPCs differently. It's RPGs. We love them.
That's
I'm
cool.
enjoying it a lot. It's a ton of fun.
That sounds like a blast.
Yeah. And then I also finished the season of A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms. Great show. Would definitely recommend it to everybody, especially if you like the Song of Ice and Fire universe. House of Dragons coming back later this year too, so that's exciting. We'll probably talk about that. But yeah, Knight of the Seven Kingdoms, it's great, and it's like so distinct from the other series in this franchise because it's like it's smaller in scale, but the events are still very consequential. And Dunk and Egg are just two excellent characters, and the performances are spot on. Like they really bring those characters to life, and I'm excited to see the next stories.
I need to start that.
Yeah. I'm going to be interested to see how the fan base overall, like the people who haven't read the short stories, respond to the show after season 1, because it's like each season, it seems, is adapting a different short story. And so I think aside from Dunk and Egg, most of the characters we met in season 1 do not play a role going forward. So it's like different in that way than Game of Thrones and House of Dragon, because it's like it's short stories. It's the tales of Dunk and Egg. They go around the country and they do various things. So I'm excited to see
that though.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun. Also The Pit. Been watching The Pit, caught up on it. It's great. I think the way they've handled season 2, you've seen season 1, right?
No, I have not seen
No.
The Pit,
Okay.
no.
Well, I won't spoil what happens in season 1 for you, but there is a turning point in that season where things like the stakes just kind of like skyrocket. And going into season 2, I was like, how do you kind of top that? And they didn't, but they found a different way to raise the stakes at about the same point in the season in season 2. And I'm like, okay, good. You were creative with it. Now they have a totally different type of problem to solve that is causing a crisis for them, but it's not just trying to be like season 1, but bigger. It's and a lot of the character work this season I think is really great. And the structure of the show is so unique because it is just over the course of one day each season. So it's like the characters have to evolve in between seasons, and then we get like glimpses of just one day of their life every time. It's
oh
great.
My goodness.
But yeah, that is all that I have done, and I think that is going to do it for us this week.
Yeah.
We'll plan to be back in 2 weeks. Got a couple good things coming up. I don't think Project Hail Mary is out by the time it's time to record next, but we'll do that soon. We'll find something else to do in between. But yeah, enjoyed this episode. Niles, where can people find you online in between now and our next episode?
You can follow me on Instagram at Niles Got No Styles, and always here at this podcast at Play Pause Rewind. But what about you, Dylan? Where can people follow you online?
You can follow me on Instagram at DylanD1026, on Twitter at D-Day Movies, on YouTube at D-Day Movies. And as Niall said, you can find me here at Play Pause Rewind and our second channel, Play Pause Rewind Videos. We're also on TikTok sometimes and Instagram. We have an Instagram as well, but all of that is linked down in the description below. Thank you so much for watching and listening. If you like the show, please leave a 5-star review or tell a friend. And with that, stay safe out there, and we'll see you next time. Goodbye.
Thank you. Bye.